So welcome to week 4. To start, on video 1, we'll talk about stage 2 of the Novelli model called planning, and that will help set the slate of things that we'll talk about this week. So last week I introduced the Novelli model and its 6 steps of creating content. And last week we specifically covered stage 1, which was analysis. And in that were the market analysis, the consumer analysis, and the institutional analysis. And you'll remember the 4 steps for a market analysis, the 3 steps for a consumer analysis, and the 3 steps for institutional analyses. And then we move to stage 2, which is our planning stage. And what this allows us to do is really create a blueprint for action. So in this, we want to define what our objectives are. What do we want to have accomplished here? We want to come up with strategies for how we market ourselves or position ourselves in that market that we talked about. We'll get to something called a marketing mix, and I'll talk about that in a couple slides. And then our action plan, which is really our blueprint for moving forward. And then what we'll do in stage 3 is start to develop and tease those out and test those out. But we want to come up with some sort of preliminary blueprint for even brainstorming. So this is how we do that. The first thing we need to do is really create specific objectives. It's not something that's really easy to do. So there are a couple ideas for what we need out of our objectives. The first is, like I said, the objective needs to be realistic. Is this really achievable? Can we really do this kind of a campaign? Can we come out with all this kind of content? Or are our expectations for that content good? If we put out one video, a YouTube video, will it really go viral? And will we get 20 million people looking at this? Or is this something that might flop and we only get 300 views? If we're relying on the fact that we're going to get those 3 million YouTube views, the objective might not be realistic. And then not all objectives are equally important. We need to really set our priorities. We need to say, this goal, the goal of increasing sales, is much more important than the goal of being world famous. So we need to put those in priority and prioritize them. Then we need to say, what does this look like? We need to quantify our objectives. Are we looking for improvement in general, or are we looking to improve ourselves by a certain percent? If we don't quantify these and really name those out, it really becomes difficult to evaluate our effort. In that case, if you just say we need to improve our sales, does improving our sales by 1% mean that this was worth it? Or does improving our sales by 30% mean that it was worth it? And that allows us to evaluate our efforts in a specific way. And then, this looks familiar, objectives must be consistent. When we have a consistent campaign, that means that we can move people through the campaign over time. We need to get to step 1, to step 2, to step 3, to step 4, to step 5 to make a sale. This is really true if there's some type of a persuasion campaign. If the end goal, say, for the Obama campaign was to get people to turn out to vote, what are the actual specific steps for them to eventually do that? The first is, coming up with a point of contact, emailing them for the first time to say thank you, getting them to show up to volunteer, and then it is very much this ladder with rungs that you actually have to move people up to get to that end goal. So our objectives need to remain consistent for us to end up getting to that goal in the end. Then we're talking about what are the actual strategies that we would use, in marketing to work with that market or that landscape that we talked about. So it's the strategies that we're using in that general sphere or landscape of where we're trying to reach our content. So the first one is our target segmentation. We really need to isolate high priority segments and tailor our campaign to each of those segments. If we don't do that and we have this general pitch to everybody, what we'll find is that it'll really ignore the basic differences among the target populations, and it really lessens our opportunities for success. And we do this by creating different messages via things like ad targeting. So ads that teenagers see will be different than the elderly see, because they're going to care about different things. And then market entry. How are we going to move into that market? How are we going to introduce ourselves to that target audience? And we may use different types of content throughout the course of the campaign, but how do we start? Where is that first handshake? What does that look like? And then there's the marketing mix that we'll talk about right now. If you've taken a marketing class, you might know about the marketing mix. They call it the 4 Ps. I've used additional words here to really put this in the context of content campaigns. But what you're going to do is really this initial concept brainstorm. So the product here is the actual offering in which the exchange is with the audience. What is the actual offering? So what are they supposed to be getting? But why should they really care about the content? For the Obama campaign, the product wasn't really just the emails. It was the offering that they can be part of this person's re-election. And so that's really what we're trying to sell the people on there. Not just the content itself, but the end goal. Then the place or the distribution is really what are the channels that we're going to choose to reach that target audience. The places where this is offered. So that's place or distribution. Price can be money, but it can also be time and inconvenience. It can be a physical price. You need to be at a specific place. Or it can be something like an emotional price. And those are considerations that need to be made. And then there's things like promotion and communication. What we want to do is we want to establish our communication goals, our real long-term, what is our statement of communication? And that'll give us guidance and direction on creating message development. And at this point, we only really need a communication strategy that deals with what is to be communicated and not how to do so. And we'll talk about that right now. So what are the communication strategy statement that we need to make right now in this marketing mix portion? The basic benefits are that the target user can expect. What are the actual benefits? You will get this if you take a look at this content. It can be enjoyable. It can be a really nice product. It could be a reduction of a health concern in the general population. What is the basic benefit that you're going to receive in participating in something like this? Why should the consumer believe the offering? How are you going to help me? It should be grounded in something that's really tangible. This is what our goal is, and here's how we can do this. And this is why you should believe us. Specific actions that the consumer is expected to undertake. And then, what are the tones or the images that need to be conveyed? And a lot of you talked about this week, the specific fonts or colors, kind of the imagery that can be conveyed. Is it something that's bright and cheery? Is it something that's kind of dark and subdued? And why would you choose those different tones or images? And then from all of that, what you'll get is the action plan. And that's really the blueprint for everything that is going to follow. This can include things like schedules, what our milestones or goals are, and what are we really expecting to get out of this. And then from this, what you can start to do is move to stage 3 and really start to come up with the actual avenues, the places, and the products that you would start to distribute. And now that we have talked about stage 2, we're going to actually move into the steps of stage 2 in video 2.